Well, for 8 months, Israelis in the north have been dealing with attacks from Hezbollah across the border. But from what we know so far, it has the potential to be much worse. Here to speak with us about the next steps for Israel is Lieutenant Colonel in Reserve Sarit Zehavi of the Alma Research Center. Sarit, thanks so much for joining us today. Could you start by speaking about the recent assassination that Israel carried out of a senior Hezbollah commander? How important was this move by Israel in the fight against Hezbollah, and will it provoke further violence or do the opposite?
No, killing Hezbollah commanders is very important, since these commanders are not serving in their position only 2 years or 3 years like in the IDF. These guys can spend more than 1 decade at the same position, so definitely they are a center of knowledge and experience, so that's why it's very important to kill them even with operational levels. Having said that, it can't be the strategy of the Israeli government to bring different security situation up north, and the arms caches of Hezbollah must be eliminated, must be dealt, because otherwise we will continue to have this kind of constant fire as we see in the past few days.
Can you tell us a little bit about the people in the north and what happened over this holiday? How was the atmosphere and how are the communities in the north coping?
First, there are communities that are evacuated. This is 60,000 Israelis in 43 communities that became ghost towns since the beginning of the war, and because of this constant fire, they cannot come back. They were evacuated under the threat of the invasion, just like Hamas had done, which was not completely eliminated. At the same time, there are people like myself, I live 9 kilometers from the Israel-Lebanese border, that were not evacuated, and we experienced the sounds and the smells and the war itself every day. Now that it's the beginning of the summer, every rocket that falls in open areas, since Iron Dome would not intercept rockets that are falling in open areas, cause fires and a lot of damages and collateral damages in all over the region. We have tens of thousands of dunams that were burned since the war started, including agricultural areas. And of course, for those who are not evacuated, to leave the kids home alone, to send them to schools, to go to afternoon activities, to have graduation parties. All of these are daily questions that we are dealing with as parents raising families over here.
I think it's really interesting you brought up the fact that there are evacuated communities, tens of thousands of Israelis who have been out of their home for 8 months. I mean, this isn't a couple weeks we're talking about, so that's an important thing to note. I'm wondering, how can Israel deter Hezbollah? I mean, what is the end game here? Is a war inevitable?
The war deterrence is irrelevant for terrorist organizations that their mission is to destroy the state of Israel, no matter what the price would be. All these commanders or military operatives of Hezbollah that are getting killed by the IDF since this campaign started are branded as martyrs on their way to Jerusalem. It's not even about protecting Lebanon. I think we should change the framework and talk about how do we truly deal with the capabilities of Hezbollah to make sure that these capabilities that you now see on the screens, by the way, is not, they are eliminated, they are not threatening us anymore. And I think this is a huge change in perception, in the strategy of the State of Israel. This could be done, by the way, in different ways. It's not just about an all-out war, which everybody's talking about. It's about what do we target? How do we target the munition, the arms caches of Hezbollah? How do we work with the international community to make sure everybody understands that Hezbollah and Iran are a global threat, and that everybody understands what's this campaign all about? And yes, at the same time, how do we build also defensive infrastructures over here in the north, since we don't have shelters the same way the people in the south had. The schools are not protected, the areas where people are going to work are not protected, most of the homes don't have shelters. The situation here is very different from the south, and I think that we should all wake up and work differently after October 7th.
So today there were several sirens. There have been sirens throughout the day. I'm wondering, you mentioned that there isn't a lot of shelters on the northern front for these communities. Have there been any incidents today that you have heard of?
There are tons of fires, because throughout, from the morning hours to the, as we speak, continues, it just doesn't stop. There were barrages of rockets to all over the Galilee and the Golan. not only accurate munition to short ranges, this was all over, not only to the areas that are evacuated. One of the main targets was Tzfat, which is the biggest city in the Galilee. Many of the rockets were intercepted, but as we speak, our firefighters are coping with all these fires. Hezbollah already announced that it targeted a few bases, army bases in the north, but when these rockets are inaccurate, it is clear that they are not going to targeting just military bases, they are targeting all of us that are living here.
Of course.
And imagine what it's like to send your kids to school when they don't have shelters in Tzfat and they have to run for shelter in 15 seconds.
Absolutely. All right, Sarit, well, we are out of time, but I want to thank you so much for your insight. Stay safe.
Thank you.